Hello, I'm Mrs. Dennis. I'm the career counselor here at Southwestern, and I wanted to try something new this year. I know that we have so many amazing alumni who've gone through Southwestern High School and our district, and I wanted to focus on them and the careers that they have been able to get into. So I have the first of our alumni who we're going to be talking to today. I'm just going to ask him a series of questions. And with me today is Anthony Miserendino. And Anthony is he's going to be representing the one of the 16 national career clusters. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on this year, is trying to find individuals who are representing all of those clusters. And Anthony is representing Arts, AV, Technology, and Communications cluster. So we'll wait
Yeah.
for the bell. So Anthony,
Good timing.
tell us what year you graduated from Southwestern, and then what your job title is, who you're employed by, and how long you've currently been on that job.
Yeah. Like you said, Anthony Miserendino, graduated in 2013 from Southwest. My current job title is creative producer at the company Esports Engine, formerly known as NGE, or Next Generation Esports. The current role that I'm at in my company, I've been at for about a year, or I've had this title for about a year as creative producer, but I've had a couple different job titles before that, and have been at the company for about 5 years now. I actually just hit my 5 year anniversary.
Awesome. So what can you tell us about your career path and kind of what you're doing on your job?
Yeah, well, the career path was an interesting one. I guess what I do currently, as a creative producer. So my company focuses on esports broadcast and esports events. So for anyone that's unfamiliar, it's like competitive video gaming or professional video gaming. Um, and basically, in my job, what I do as a creative producer is help. Kind of from start to finish, realize the creative vision of our clients for like a broadcast, and basically help put that broadcast together. It's kind of similar to how you'd watch sports on TV, but we just do that for video games. So, um, we kind of take. I'll take any notes that a client has or whatever it is, and kind of what they want a show to be, and then actually turn that to life, an actual live broadcast that we stream out to the internet. So, put all the materials together, work to help get graphics made, any extra like video content that gets played in it, and I figure out how all that pieces together, what it is that we talk about in a broadcast, and make what we call a run of show, which is kind of basically the master outline for what a broadcast looks like. So kind of help put that whole thing together, and bring a broadcast to life. That's kind of the big part of what my job is. But Also, yeah, I guess career path wise, um, it was an interesting career path that I kind of took to get to this point. It was I kind of started in the like online gaming space, like as a young kid on the computer, and I just played a lot of video games growing up, and I really liked it, and I was always a competitive person, and so I kind of started playing video games competitively at a young age. Realized I was never going to be a professional. Back when I was a young kid playing video games, pro gaming was hardly a thing. So I realized that I wasn't going to be a pro because there was only a few people that could actually do it. So I got into actually commentating for professional video gaming, similar to, you watch Joe Buck on, football on Sundays or whatever it is. I did a similar thing, but for video games, was a commentator, and kind of did that for like 5+ years, until eventually it led to my job out here. And I came out to Los Angeles and started working in the gaming space, and worked as a project manager at this company for a period of time, a product designer on the business team, um, on our business team, and kind of finally ended up as a creative producer. So it was kind of a weird path. I started as like a player, then a commentator, then kind of eventually worked up to the more professional jobs and worked on the kind of the business side and execution of large projects and broadcasts that we do at our company. So uh, kind of weird path. There's much more to it than that, but hopefully that gives a high level overview.
Yeah, so basically you have advanced within that career too, and you've kind of evolved into where you're at now in the producing, and before you had done the commentating for it too. But it sounds like you turned a passion of yours into a job. And it's funny because
Hmm.
we used to laugh, and I laugh now, but we used to say that you're never going to get a job, playing video games. And here,
Yeah.
some people actually do that. So maybe that would be some advice to students: is follow your passions.
Yeah.
When we do these little interest surveys and things on Zello, and we ask students to find out what their interests are, there's a purpose to that, and that's to look at then what options are out there for you, turn your interests into career. Because what do you like the best about your job?
Oh man, I mean, as what I like the best, I mean, is as a career video game guy, like starting as a kid playing video games my whole life. I mean, in in a lot of ways, it's like the dream to be able to actually work in the video game space at all, no matter what it is, right? Um, so I mean, that's a huge part of it. Getting to work with video games all the time um, is just, I mean, it's a dream come true for me. It's kind of what I wanted for most of my life. But um, yeah, I mean, I think the other thing I really like is broadcast, especially live broadcast, is an incredibly nice. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
no, that's okay. Um, yeah, I mean, one of the other things I like the most about my job, other than it just being video games, is live broadcast is just a really um, stressful and like fast pace. A lot of things happening very quickly. Um, and I just love that like high pressure, like go 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 environment that it is. Broadcast is pretty ruthless in that way, especially live broadcast because um, when in live broadcast versus something that we would call like live to tape that's like pre-recorded and kind of gets edited and post before it gets distributed somewhere. When you're live, you only have one shot at it. You can't afford to like mess something up because you can't fix your mistakes in live broadcast. It's a you got one shot and you got to get it right kind of thing. And to me, that's just a ton of fun. Like it's this high pressure environment. It's a whole team working together to make a show happen. There's when you watch a sports game. It's actually it's kind of like playing sports. When you see like the final product of like a football game on TV, there are so many people that go into that behind the scenes, like so many people that you just don't even realize. And when you're kind of, obviously we're not making football, we're making video game broadcasts, but it's still a very similar thing. We have similar crew structures to make that final product that you see. So it's kind of getting to work with that team of people. There's just such good camaraderie there, and it's almost kind of like a family when you've been working with this group of people on a show for a long time. You work with them, you go to battle with them every week in this high pressure environment, and it just feels like a family. It's really cool. Yeah, it's kind of a feeling I hadn't really experienced till I started really doing this stuff, and it's very unique in that way. There's a lot of other high pressure industries and things like that, but live broadcast is just like a different beast that I've never experienced before. So I think that was kind of a lot of pieces, but that's probably my favorite thing about it is that high pressure environment with a group of people that feel like a family and a team.
So, are you getting to travel with this job that you have now? Like, would that be a benefit too? I mean,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, travel's definitely a thing. Obviously, we haven't been traveling as much because of COVID, but now the event space is starting to open back up again. A lot more live events are starting to happen. So previously, I personally had only traveled within the U.S. to do different events. I've worked on some Fortnite events in Seattle and um, in North Carolina and in a bunch of different places. But actually, um, this upcoming fall, I'm going to be going to Bucharest, Romania, for for an event, for a show that I've been working on all year. The World Finals is kind of happening over there in Bucharest, with one of our production partners. Um, so I mean, there's events that happen all over the world too.
Mhm.
There's I think a ton of travel opportunities in something like esports because um, esports is a very global um, kind of sport, if you will. It's a very global thing. So events happen all over the world.
Sure.
So yeah, very excited for the Bucharest thing though at the end of
Yeah,
the
I
year.
bet. And then when you talk about esports, I know now that some of these colleges, they have that as an actual um, major, and or as a club, or they have these teams. So I know one of those is Harrisburg University is pretty big in that. So if anybody
Hmm.
is interested in that type of career, but what kind of student would this kind of type of career be for?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, sorry if you're what um I want you were talking about like what kind of student is the career for, not like the schooling.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
who might be interested in, something involving
Yeah.
your career area?
Yeah, I mean, I think the kind of student that would find something like this interesting, I mean, obviously liking video games is a big part of it, but I mean, there's so much more to it than liking video games. Like you can like video games, but there's and that helps actually a lot. Um, and knowing video games well actually helps a ton, but um, I think the kind of person that would like this industry, I mean, it's someone that likes to grind. I'll tell you that. I mean, it's a lot of long hours and uh, hard days of work. But it's super rewarding at the end of the day. That's actually a great question. I'm trying to even think of what kind of person would like, what kind of student would like this kind of thing. I mean, maybe someone that wants a non-traditional career, or wants to follow a non-traditional career path. It's something we'll probably talk about more a little later, but I never actually finished college. When I got into this industry, I kind of got a good offer myself, a good job offer. While I was in the middle of school, I was kind of planning on going. I was getting like a year and a half away from graduating college, and an opportunity came up for myself. I was planning on finishing. An opportunity came up, and I went into it. I think it's an industry that you don't necessarily need um, college education for. It's more about what you know and who you know, as many industries are who you know. But I think a lot of it is what you know. People are not necessarily they're not too concerned necessarily about you having a degree for a lot of the jobs in the esports space. Obviously, there are some, and there are some companies that will want you to have a degree, but um, people aren't necessarily too concerned about it. It's more of like what you know. But I will say you need to know more than just video games, or you need to at least take the time to learn more than just video games. That only goes so far. So yeah, a little bit of a
Yeah,
long-winded answer there, but
no, that's great. Thank you. So do you think that the job outlook is pretty good for this career area?
yeah, the job outlook's great. I mean, yeah, the esports is a super successful industry right now. Gaming in general, even just outside of esports, gaming is I forget the numbers, but I mean it's one of the most high traffic in terms of dollars out of like the entertainment sector. Really, it's either one of the most, if not the most. I think it surpasses movies and like music in some ways there. So I forget the exact numbers, but yeah, I mean, the gaming industry in general is just massively huge, especially right now because of the pandemic. A lot of a lot of companies struggled during the pandemic. As we know, ours actually was hiring people like crazy during the pandemic, just because of how much video games took off, and there's no saying that that's going to slow down either. I think that's just like as a society, kids are growing up now with video games, and that's just a part of kids' lives now, from you know for better or worse, from from when they're at a very young age. And that trend seems to be continuing and probably will continue. So the gaming space is very hot. Esports is very hot right now. So the job outlook's great, for the industry as a whole. My particular role, I mean, I'm more and more broadcasts are going to keep coming up, I'm sure, as the popularity is there. Typically, my or esports in general is actually kind of typically used as like marketing. That's kind of how it's seen most of the time, is actually marketing for a video game. So, as long as the gaming industry is doing well, esports will probably also be doing well.
And what kind of advice do you have for high school students when they're considering careers? What do you think that they should be doing? What recommendations do you have?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, when considering careers, I guess there's definitely something to be said for following your dreams, right? I mean, that's what I did, and it worked out. I do think there's also a lot of people that do try to follow their dreams for something that's maybe a very, very tough. It's a very slim amount of people that can do that thing. That might be your dream, and I think it's worth a crack. I think anything's worth um I think it's worth a shot. But maybe it's more about knowing when it maybe isn't working out, and you have to find a bit more of a traditional job while you can take another shot at your dream later or something. But I mean, I think looking at, I guess my one of the other big pieces of advice for it would be like, don't be super concerned about money. I don't know, at least early on, I wasn't. I mean, I being a kid that didn't finish college, my boss luckily saw, the owner of the company saw a ton of potential in me. And, for living in Los Angeles, certainly was not getting offered a ton of money, but it, I just took the shot, and luckily, the owner of the company took a shot on me, and I just, kind of worked with the low pay for a long period of time, and I wasn't concerned about the money because I was doing something that I loved, right? And obviously we all have needs that we need to take care of in life, and we need money to do a lot of that stuff. But it's not something I'd be super concerned about. If your buddies, I had friends that were working other jobs, back in Hanover, that were probably making more money than I was, at least initially, right? So it's don't care about what other people are doing, as long as you like what you're doing. um you know that's, I think, really what matters at the end of the day, as long as you can support yourself too,
Sure.
obviously, and whoever else you need to in your life. But yeah, don't be too concerned about the money. As long as you like what you do, that's, to me, that's kind of more important.
Yep. And I know you tried out some things while in high school. You did some of the career exploration things through YCal, and it probably helped you eliminate some things and decide, now I know I don't want to do that. So, you know,
Yeah.
if you think that's helpful to the students as well, to be looking at their options while in high school, but
Yeah,
realizing that things can change too down the road.
exactly. I mean, I think yeah, I think, doing as much of that career exploration stuff as you can while you're in high school, I think is super valuable. I mean, yeah, like you were saying, Miss Dennis, I mean, I I definitely did quite a bit of that in high school. Different career camps and things like that. It's just helpful to see what all is out there, really, even within Hanover. Like, I'm sure a lot of kids are like, man, I can't wait to get out of this town. But there's even a ton of stuff to do in Hanover these days. So I think it's good to like just keep your options open, look at everything, and if nothing else, at the end of the day, you learn about something that you didn't know about. And to me, knowledge is a really key thing in life. Just knowing about a lot of stuff is super helpful. So I think doing that career exploration, and like you said, your path is probably going to change at some point from, what you think you're going to do in high school. That will probably change at some point, and that's okay. Just keeping your options open, I think is super valuable and important. I did that as I changed roles throughout my company, like was looking at other jobs. So keeping your options open is always huge.
So do you have any bits of last bits of advice for any of our students here?
Uh yeah. Yeah. In terms of advice, I mean, I think one thing I guess I've kind of realized is trying to think of how I want to word this. It's advice is find something that you're good at or passionate about, and become truly good at that thing. Um, that's what myself and I think a lot of other of the young guys working in the industry, when our crazy owner of the company at the time decided to bring in a bunch of kids out of college, with no real previous professional job experience. We just had the thing that we were good at, and we just spent all of our time becoming really good at that stuff that we were brought on for. And yeah, I think that is super important in any job. I mean, you can go to school to become a computer programmer, but if someone sits you down and says, you're a comp sci major, and someone sits you down and says, like, I have this problem, solve this for me. There's kids that I knew that went to school for comp sci that like couldn't program an actual program to solve real world problems, right? So it's even if you go to school for something, spend, make sure you become truly good at that thing. And it probably requires extra work outside the classroom. Going to classes, to me, a lot of the time was not enough to become truly good at something. It was helpful, right? Like there's a, obviously going to class and learning the stuff, and there's very helpful, but there's, I think, a ton of work you need to put in outside of it to become truly good at something. Cause a lot of school, and stuff like that is just theoretical. Or it's not theoretical, but like it's the theory of something, and all that is very helpful to understand. But I think taking the time to really dig deep on your own too, to become truly good at whatever it is that you do, um, is really the key to success in any job, or it's one of the keys at least. Um, yeah, I think becoming truly good at whatever it is that you're into is one thing. And oh man, I was literally thinking about this as I was going to bed last night. I had one other thing, and now I can't remember. Oh my gosh, what was it? I should have written it down.
Take your time. She can edit.
Yeah. Uh, man, what was? Take the time to become truly good at whatever it is, and oh my gosh. Hmm. Dang it, that's upsetting. I can't believe I forgot what that was. Hmm. Um.
Well, I liked what you said
Darn it.
about connections that you made too. Like people that you make these connections, and what you were just talking about is applying what you've learned in school. Like you can't just be all about the books. You've got to apply what you learned too, and like
Yep.
there's a benefit to the internship kind of things too that get you in there in the workplace, and that's how you
That's
make
yeah.
the connections with people.
That's yeah. I mean, a lot of people, and you've probably heard it from people like my mother or even you, Mrs. Dennis, is um, it's a lot of industries and jobs are who at the end of the day. Like that goes a really long way in the professional space. And luckily, from starting out, as a kid, like in the gaming space, there's actually like people that I met a really long time ago that I've like come across now in the space, and they've helped me get opportunities or like different things like that. Like that's a huge component to it, and keeping those opportunities open. A lot of who, and there was something, oh my goodness, Man, my brain is just struggling this morning. Sorry, not
It's a
much sleep.
time change. It's the, what time is it out there?
It's 8 a.m. Most of
Oh,
my
wow.
days, most of
Wow.
my days start. I work with a European client right now. They're based out of like Finland. So this for the past like year, I've been at the beginning of this year, I was like up at 5 a.m. every day. Um, and getting on to like work with them. And then I think like for the past 4 or 5-ish months, we've been kind of on like a 7 a.m. start time, but we'll still have like really early meetings some days and whatnot. So it's kind of a brutal schedule
Mhm.
sometimes, but for the love of esports.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome. I mean, I learned something I always do when I'm talking to people about their careers. And we're very proud of you here and what you've accomplished. And yeah, so if any student would have an interest, would you mind that I reached out to you? And
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean,
awesome.
I would love to talk to anybody. I mean, that's interested in the space, and um, there's. I think another thing with esports is there's like, I mean, there's tons of different types of jobs in here, and um, I have some pretty strong opinions on in this day and age how you could even get into a space like esports. So, like, if
Mhm.
anybody, because it's unfortunately it is like a everyone's kind of like, well, I like video games.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do esports, and that's like everybody now. So which is good because there's a lot of jobs and we need people to come in and, work these jobs and get the experience in the space, but also makes it pretty competitive as well. So I have some pretty strong opinions on that. So if anybody is interested in it, I definitely would be happy to talk to them. Feel free to give them my email or something like
Okay.
that. So,
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
mhm.
Well, we wish you the best in your career and definitely be following what you're doing. So thank you so much for taking your time to be available and speak to our students. Good
Yeah,
luck
thank
to
you.
you.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I appreciate
Certainly.
it a lot. Good luck with all this stuff too. I meant to